Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world today, you're in the new way. Here on, I'm not sure where we actually are, so we're just here. And know we're here. I've got El Brujo and Harris with me, but I have called upon today to do some talking about group theory because I have mentioned it often. And in using the term, I sometimes confuse people, but it's a facet of the socio-chemical theory that I'm developing. Chemistry is positioned in the sciences between biology and physics. Sociology is positioned between history and blah, 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 psychology. And so they're kind of in parallel places in the realm of order. And that got me to thinking that maybe the theories that come about in sociology and the theories that come about in chemistry are parallel. And one of the things we do in chemistry is we say hello to our friends. Greetings, Grizz. The general has made it. Um, I got everybody else mute, so you'll have to just go with me. Um, group theory. Group theory in chemistry has to do with the mathematics of positioning elements in relation to each other when you make molecules. And depending on how many nearest neighbors the person has, the atom has, that tells you the shape of the surroundings in the environment that that main atom is in. And it uses math a lot, like matrix algebra. And yeah, it's molecular positioning protocol. Thanks, Grizz. And it seems to me that when you take that into human systems, each of us is a central molecule with 4 to 6 people that we deal with regularly circulating in our immediate sphere. And the positioning of relationships between those people, it makes a difference whether they're family or in group of friends or work environment. But you get 5 to 13 people together in a group called work environment, and it's not the same as one person and the immediate people that they're dealing with. Um, chemistry and people both have groups, and they both work in the same way. It got to me that chemistry works basically on Fibonacci, and the Fibonacci sequence takes the first number 0, adds the next number 1, and generates the further number 1. Then you take 1 and add it to 1 to get 2. 1 and 2 make 3. 3 and 5. Hi, Bruce. What's up?
No, I wanted to make a comment.
I got that.
Forgive me. May I?
Yes, that's why I asked you what's up.
Okay. I have spoken about this before, and as someone whom I really respect, with a PhD in chemistry, I want to share with you a feeling that I've had for a long, long time, and that is that this solar system that we are a part of is part of a fluorine atom right now, but it used to be a neon atom. The so-called asteroid belt between the planets commonly known as Mars and Jupiter used to be a planet. Now, who knows how that planet was uh, disintegrated and turned into the asteroid belt. But world, in my world, okay, we could be part of anything, chemically and biologically and physically. We could be part of anything because we are just a we were a fluorine atom. I mean, a neon atom. Now we're a fluorine atom, and that makes us way more reactive, than almost no. Just leave it there. Just leave it there.
Okay,
Way
that's
more
good
reactive.
because I don't want to get too far out of my talk because I
Okay.
want to get these things across.
Okay, fine.
So I'll
I
call on
just
you
wanted to say
again.
that. Just want to say that. Thank you for letting me speak.
Well, you raised your hand, and we don't have a little emoji hand yet, but we'll get there.
All right.
So, meanwhile, the mathematics of group theory involve matrix algebra and coordinates in space. And if we apply that to human scale, we can take the number of viewers that are watching, see where we are in the Fibonacci scale, and count the number of Fibonacci jumps up that scale in order to get into the numbers that apply to the group theory. And group theory is just a mathematical way of measuring what's going on in a human sense based on the size of the group. So if you've got a group of one person, yourself, and you're surrounded by 4 or 5 others, that group of 5 can act as a group to represent itself further on at a higher level of scale. Let's call that the second order group. And based on a second order group that begins with 5 people, you would have one would be mapped to 5. The next Fibonacci number 1 would be mapped to 8. 2 would be mapped to 13. And 3 would be mapped to 21. So between 5 people and 21 people, you have that second order range. And these are called functional groups. And these functional groups can be dedicated to any function they want to be, but it's not the same sort of group as a group where you're 5 people and you're just meeting each other and talking and having conversations about things that matter, because that's where the group theory is going. Is it's a way of figuring out the order of conversation based on the number of people involved so that we can have some major conversations on a whole lot of different things. And the ideas filter up to larger and larger groups as a function of growth. And this growth is the same type of growth that simulates natural systems because they seem to work by Fibonacci on a nature scale. So, in a way, it's taking human scale and atomic scale and correlating the information between those two scales and saying that those scales are fractals of each other, and that what we end up having is, well, yeah, truth is scalar, but the world works in a way just like Bruce just explained that it works, where we can be on a fluoride ion, or which used to be a neon atom, but somehow managed to lose a little charge. But the whole thing is that in a fractal way, humans are represented by other things on other scales, probably with similar thought processes and mechanisms of how things get done. Having said that, current human scale is pretty fucked duck. And we have some real problems about what's going on. I don't know about groping elephants there. I have groped a few, but the fluoride. Okay, without getting back away from humorous stuff, the idea is that I wanted to give a short explanation of how group theory is based on the bottom side of things. So a Fibonacci group of 8 includes people. Well, no, let's go back. A group of 1 is real easy. Say hello to yourself. A group of 3 is what we have in the room now, Harris, Bruce, and I. And I'll have them up in short order to converse with me. A group of 13 is somewhat manageable, but 5 and 8, 6 and 7 go into a group of 5. When you reach 8, then that includes groups from 9 to 12. So by 13, you're looking at up to 20. 13 to 20 is the same size group. But you count how many numbers up the Fibonacci cycle it is, and you get 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. That's 8th order group. So if you're dealing with 21 people in an 8th order group and having it functionally active doing something, I'd say you got a pretty good LARP running. Okay, so that's a basic discussion of how group theory can be applied to people, even though it's based on symmetry and really comes out of chemistry. And it's all a function of scale. So I'm going to tell Harris and Bruce to unmute, and we can talk about things.
Cool. Very interesting talk. Bruce, it's okay for me to speak? Or do you want to finish your thought? So, very interesting talk. As I told you in the past, basically, I have a slightly different understanding that is equally mathematical, that has to do with a different branch of mathematics called group theory. And it is also found in chemistry, of course, as you said. In that particular branch, it has to do with there is a subclass called the sporadic groups, where basically it's a set of groups that they have finite size. So it's more akin to these groups that you mentioned with the Fibonacci sequence, let's say. So that's one of the things I wanted to add as an introduction. The other has to do with basically some of the research I have done in the past had to do with groups, particularly small groups of people. I mean, in terms of HR, human resource management. And one of the things that I remember is that there was a manual issued by the US Army regarding small groups formations, and they suggested that the best, the ideal size for a group is 5 to 8. So if I remember, you said 4 to 6, but 5 to 8 is what they suggested, because after that number, communication becomes even more fragmented, let's say, because the different communication channels they become they expand a lot. So the last thing I wanted to add is that first of all, can you please reiterate a bit what you said about the functional groups and the numbers. You said the second order is 5, and the third one.
No. Well, when you get to a group that gets up from 1 person to 5 to 8 people,
Mhm.
you can do the reset to second order, and the second order groups are starting at 5 to 8 people and working up Fibonacci from there. So they're a lot more functional. Like in chemistry, functional groups have a halogen on them and can be swapped out and be the catalyst in a organic reaction.
Mhm. Okay, so going back to group theory from mathematics, there is a group. This one, the master group, it's the largest one of the bunch, and actually it includes within it most of the other groups. So I was wondering, in your paradigm, the larger, the more large groups, let's say, of a higher order, do they include the previous ones?
Yes, I would say that they do.
So we start with smaller groups, and then, as in this case, with 3, and then we expand, but we 3 we remain in it. It's not that. That's
Yes,
the.
we have a group of 3 that is a core group that could go up to 5,
Mhm.
but once it gets to 5, we'll see it. We might take on people to move to 8, but I don't want it to get out of hand. I had 37 people in a radio show. Bruce.
Well, like, if I may just make an ancillary comment about everything that Harris has brought up and what you brought up. First of all, I'm not quite as focused on the Fibonacci numbers as you are, but that's okay. I don't mind. But let's face it, all right? I don't know if either one of you have ever lived in community with a number of people, okay? But when you have 3 people, it's fairly reasonable and easy. When you have 5, it's a little more difficult. When you have 8, it can get really stupid. Really stupid, okay? Because people are different. We're all different. And we all get to be different. We're all allowed to be different. And that's one of the things that make our reality as unique as it is. Excuse me.
I would agree with you 100% on that, Bruce. For a first order group, something that is based on you as an individual, 5's a lot, 8 is the limit, and anything more gets extremely stupid. But people do have to go into bigger groups, and I don't want individuals to get lost in bigger groups.
But no.
And that's what happens in the world today is once you join a bigger group, the management of that group counts on you as a contributor and runs away from you as an information source unless you're very, very lucky. And I'm trying to work a theory of how something goes. So the definitions that we're setting here on how this is going to work are sort of fundamental points in the glossary of how to make the information work. And it's interesting because I've been working with a social worker in the past on this very topic. So, of course, that would be KTS Worker who's in the chat right now. And she's listening. I could probably invite her in if I had the immediate contact source, but
do I know her, Lenny?
no.
Okay, all right.
No. This is somebody who I met long after you and I had not been there. But anyway, she she understands the sociology enough to explain to me what was going on when I gave her the terms of chemistry. And that's how we just shaped it early on. I haven't talked with her on this topic for maybe 3 years. So it's nothing that we've got going recently, but it did provide me with a fundamental basis that had somebody in the field of sociology telling me I wasn't all wet when I took the principles of chemistry, especially the idea of having your reactions balance, and tried to start applying it to human systems so that we could step away from the human system that currently is one size fits all. So, in figuring out how it's going to work, there's models all over the place in science fiction and popular culture that we can take and apply, but not in the context that they've been given because I don't like the current context.
Well, I would say first of all, right off the bat, that human human uh, let's just take the three of us. One size does not fit all. All right, one size does not fit all. Like, we're three friends. We're three friends, and Lenny, you and I go way back. And Harris, I'm just delighted to have made your acquaintance and become a better friend of you. But the human experience is not limited. It's not limited. I'm going to stop right there. It's not limited. We are all. We are all. Those of us who are independent thinkers, we are all able to and delighted to, in my case, and I think in yours as well, to think independently of the mainstream. And the mainstream has made it really obvious that we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Our whole culture is in trouble. And we might as well acknowledge this. Our whole culture is in trouble. And we might as well acknowledge it. So let's acknowledge it. Maybe you don't feel the way I do, but
We can acknowledge it, but I don't want to be part of a solution that's imposed by a group of people that doesn't listen to me or hear me or know me. And so coming up with a mechanism that works on the ground floor for people like the three of us having a conversation, just a way of theoretically coming with an underpinning so that when we take the measurements of the groups we've already been forming and throw it into the curve of group theory and see what the graphs come out on the other side looking like, I think we'll find that there's a level of effectiveness that we have in small groups that goes down really sharply when too many people get involved, but that depends on the scale of things. And right now there's a lot of people who need something to do on human scale and can't really cope with any more than 3 to 5 people. And I don't want them to be left out because everybody here is virtually not alone because they're here. And we've got a group approaching 8 people right now, if you count the 4 watchers, the 3 of us, and the fact that every number's error bars are plus or minus 1. And so, in human scale, you can't have anything less than a single human. On water scale, you can't have anything less than an H2O molecule. So no matter what the base scale is defined as 1, to get anything smaller than 1, you have to go to 0 point, and that's a whole different energetic conversation. But this is just an impromptu conversation. And so the 7 of us are still on level 5, which happens to be an order of 5, and a fifth order conversation between 3 people might come up with some things that are important to reference in the future when we get to talking about things. Harris.
Doc, going back to the Fibonacci sequence, it goes 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144. Okay, so I will take this. It's a large number, let's say, but I will take it because I can work with it. So
Right, and it happens to be 12th order, which 12 squared is 144.
Okay, exactly. So you said something about measurement, and I will be using that size of the group as an example because of the square law. There is a law called the price law. Okay, and it says the following thing. According to this law, in any group of people, approximately 50% of the work is done by the square root of the total number of people in the group. So in this example of a group of 144, let's say, or of the 12th order, the top, not 12 of the individuals will be responsible for 50% of the work. So just to give a set of a sense of metric, let's say, of what we are dealing here, and that particular statistic works in many different domains, but particularly in things concerning groups. So this is what I wanted to add.
Very, very astute. And that's why, as we go up in the order of groups, it'll be important to realize where the changeover is for the group of 1 size, because I don't want to lose the idea that every individual human as a group of 1 should be heard on any specific level higher up in the organization, as long as they have an interest. But once it starts getting to 4th order and 5th order, which is what I've been working on recently, I only crossed the threshold to 4th order this summer. And my first order game with just me called Existence started in 2001. So I've been at this game for a while. And Bruce, as a player, has numbers in my notebooks because he was a player. When I wasn't talking to anybody about the game, I was just writing about it in my notebooks and trying to come off the trauma of a unreasonable breakup with my wife and family. And yeah, in a way, Grizz, the bonding is the work, and there's a whole lot of parallels, but we're still going to work out the mechanism because this is a field that hasn't really been introduced to the world yet. Good to great. Now, drop the author's name, please. But getting back to what I'm talking about is that at this point, the world is fragmenting to the point where I don't want to be part of it, but there's no other place to go given the current system. It's not fixable, but there's some things that don't need fixing, and that should be able to. Everybody has major failures, but interesting.
That's for sure.
And
to interject a comment, Lenny.
Okay.
Lenny, I love you. I love you, bro. All right. Like that is what we were all about as hedonists in Ashland. That is all. That was what we were all about as hedonists in Ashland, and we had you know, way more than a Fibonacci number of individuals who were contributing to the dialogue when we were so-called, you know, I mean, let's face it, okay? If you want to, hedonist is an acronym of he. Uh, I don't think I need to even explain this.
To
Okay,
play on words.
it's a play on words, all right? And we met at Ash's place, and we had this amazing dialogue with kindred spirits. Okay, they were all kindred spirits. Everybody that was in that group was a kindred spirit, and sometimes it was more than 8. Sometimes
we easily at times could get 20 to 25 characters together.
Yeah.
For an event.
Yeah.
The initial conversation of speakers that they formed the group with had Nassim Harriman talking in Ashland.
Amazing. Nassim Harriman talking. Nassim Harriman. I mean, yeah. That one incident, and he spoke with us several times, not just once. He spoke with us several times. And Nassim is a real luminary when it comes to physics, okay? And so, you know, we all, I mean, despite our inability to comprehend the reality, real physics is something that we all can. We're first of all, we're all oh God. I have trouble speaking sometimes because Nassim Harriman, Harriman, Nassim Harriman. He's a physicist, and he's really quite famous now. And he used to join us in our conversations. You know, when we had our little, yeah, they weren't little, but they were little. Everything's little. What the hell isn't little? You know, what the hell isn't little? We're little. We're really little. We're so little. Even little people think we're little.
Well, we're off the radar screen by being little. And that's always a good thing because we are agents of change in a world fighting change. So let the world fight itself, and let's start having conversations and use the group theory as a way of measuring the conversations and seeing how we're all doing as groups. And so Grizz was here earlier. He probably still is here. It's easy enough to do the group theory on Grizz's small corner of the internet. And what we find probably is he's somewhere around a 10th level group with the station he runs on YouTube. But if you expand it to include his X group and the people who are disciples of the movement, which even includes this station, because we are a member of the Virtually Not Alone network, I'm going to guess that we might be looking at 233, which is 144 plus 89, which would take us to a 13th level group. But the stuff I was talking about that you were there, Bruce, when we were talking with Jamin, and he was talking about this environmentalist guy who had 30,000 followers and he's hoping for 3,000. Even if he gets 300, that's a group the size of Grizz's group, because 233 includes all the way up to the next total, which is 377. And 377 will be a nice mark to attain That's where I'm shooting for now. Yes, Bruce.
Well, I'm just, I mean, first of all, I really enjoyed the chat with Jamin. That was about a week ago. The last, uh, the last broadcast. But he talked about this guy. What's his name? What's his name? Right? He talked about what's his name. I never forget good old what's his name. And that guy, like,
It was just a figurehead. He was just using it as an example. You got too keyed up on who the guy was.
yeah, but I mean, really, that fucking guy is an idiot. He's an idiot.
Bruce, people are entitled to be idiots if they want to. It doesn't disqualify
they sure
them
as
from
hell are.
talking
They
to
sure
us.
as hell are. Okay, so don't mind me. All right, but I studied climatology. All right, I know about climatology. All right, this guy Beckwith calls himself a climatology scientist, and he is just aligned with what's his name, the fucking politician from Tennessee who almost became president of the United States. Good God, don't mind me.
Al Gore.
What?
Al Gore.
Say that,
Al
Harris.
Gore.
Al Gore.
Al Gore, yeah, he's aligned with Al Gore, and Al Gore is just a politician. He's not a scientist. He doesn't know jack shit about science or climatology, and he's passed himself off as a major, somebody who understands science.
Well, that's because he was a politician and he managed to get a lot of money from his public service and now runs around with people like William Gates using this money to essentially assassinate the entire population. But I see the assassins have not succeeded.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to me that anyone is a protege of Bill Gates. Anyone. It's absolutely amazing to me, and I wish I was smoking dope with you, bro. All right, I'm really still trying to quit. I'm still trying to quit. It's yesterday. I I don't need to explain. I don't need to explain. No, I don't. How the hell can anybody be a protege of Bill Gates, for Christ's sakes?
Monster. Bruce, this Al Gore, 3 weeks ago, he was once again to that Davos meeting.
Say that again. I'm sorry, Harris. Go ahead.
They have an annual Davos meeting.
Davos, yeah. Well, of course, Bill Gates is in Davos, for Christ's sakes. He's totally aligned.
Al Gore.
Yeah.
Al Gore was there again.
Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah.
Of course he was. I meant Al Gore. He's totally aligned with the World Economic Forum and all the rest of those, monsters.
Well, here's the thing. They have no power over the three individuals sitting here on this screen.
Right.
And so let's take over their function and stand back and analyze how the world works in a way where we can put competent individuals into a role to make something happen and indeed let them happen. But if you take, for instance, the Starfleet, Star Trek system of how people must have lived, how did they do it so that they became a federation of planets? Can we become a federation of people where you can do whatever you want, but you get hammered on if you step out of line with the reality of many people? But most of the good innovation comes from people stepping out of the line with the reality of what people are, especially since we've been given a lot of false information to munch on.
That is exactly how it happens. And you know that. You know that, Lenny. All right. You're one of the few individuals who realize that we have to step out of the mainstream in order to get anywhere near our true reality. Wow, that was an interesting moment, right? It was an interesting moment. There was some serious silence there. I love that. I love the silence. The silence is really valuable. We all need to listen to the silence. The silence is really valuable.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, right.
I've
Roger
come to
that.
talk with you again. Anyway, the information that Jamin and I and Bruce talked about on this show was followed up by two multi-hour meetings that I had with Jamin, and some of his colleagues. And they were talking to me about the concept of after parties, where you come from YouTube, you have your premiere and presentation, and then everybody in the chat room hops into a Zoom call or Discord room or StreamYard live stream or however it works. And that's where you get to talk behind the scenes and figure out things. But getting to the point where you understand how to communicate again on a base level with a group of people so that we can form something where when you know what you're doing, you can represent other people in what you say, but we need to get something where we're not voting, we're discussing. And the rules of conversation have changed.
First of all, the vote is a really, it's a fiction. The vote is a fiction. It has nothing to do with our current reality anymore. The vote is a fiction. We used
But
to be.
it's
Well,
a
wait, let
charade.
me just finish
Okay.
this little statement. That we used to be a republic that was based on a democracy, but a republic that relied upon elected representatives that that let's just say they represented the people. The people. That is hardly the situation anymore, is it? It's hardly the situation anymore. We are completely enshrouded by a corruption. Yeah, come on. Well, we all know this. If we don't know it, we're not paying attention.
Right, but we're not going to fix it, and we're not going to have an alternative to go to until we can set it aside and look at how to do similar functions differently without trying to get there from here. It's going to fall apart on its own. We don't have to worry about it. What we do have to worry about is how to have conversations so that everybody has a voice and we can take our voices and combine them to get things done when we can't even agree on the chemistry of environmentalism because we can't have that discussion.
Yeah, but you're talking about something that is relatively almost unreachable. Okay.
Absolutely, but it's totally unreachable if nobody tries.
Yeah,
And
right.
I've got
Okay.
time.
All right. So here we are. We can try. Here's, you and I are both citizens of the United States of America, and God love Harris, who is a citizen of uh, what's that little island you're on? Cyprus. You know, and you're right offshore of Israel, which is absolutely got way more control over the politics of the United States of America than it should. Way more.
Let me tell you something. A short
Yeah.
story. I was discussing via text with Neutrino earlier today, and I shared with him in response to something that he sent me an article that had to do with the war and all the situation that is going on now in Yemen and Qatar and all of that. And I searched a bit about, and I found one article about a Texas university, one of the 6 American universities that they have branches in Doha, in Qatar. Okay, and they announced like a few days ago that they will, in the next 4 years, they are gonna close down their branch over there. And what I found really interesting is the reason why they are, let's say, why they decided to do that. Because, you know, universities, they are very profitable business, and especially when you have a branch, let's say, in another wealthy nation, that's a lot of money. So it doesn't make any sense to close the branch. And when they announced the reason, it was the following: a non-profit from Washington D.C. wrote a letter and sent it to one of the 3-letter agencies, let's say, and they said that we believe that the University of Texas is collaborating with Qatar with in their university branch over there in Doha and building nuclear weapons. And let's say that is, I don't believe that that's true, but one letter, it was enough for them to close down that profitable branch they have. So this is how things work these days. You write a letter and you achieve your goal, let's say.
They remarked that there's a bunny in the corner, and that bunny up here in the upper right hand corner of the screen is part of my branding. And the bunny is smoking a joint, and the comment he's making is, "Who the fuck is Alice?"
Yeah. Well, we need to question everything. We need to question everything. All right, especially now. You know,
That's the new way.
Well, that is the new way. All right, and why not? Weigh it again. That's the new way. We're so lucky that we can question everything, because we could be completely squashed. We could be, yeah, we could be exterminated. You know, just because we are independent thinkers, we could be exterminated.
You know, I'm not sure we can. And
Well, yeah, but I mean, we could. We're just individuals, Lenny. We're just
near-death
individuals.
experiences, how many have you had?
Several.
Me too. Harris, how about you?
I was trying to respond to the comment. Tell me, I didn't catch that up. Ask me again.
How many near-death experiences have you had through your lifetime?
2.
Okay.
Yeah.
My theory on NDEs is that everybody has them. If you're done with your purpose here on this planet now, you die. If you're not, you wake up and say, "What the shit? What just happened?" But you don't die. Or you go through dying, you die, and they revive you at the hospital and bring you back, and anything that goes with that. My thought is, you really did die in a whole number of worlds that you are part of to get out of the way, to be more effective in the worlds where you make a difference and matter. And all those people who remember you still have you there, and you are an NPC. And here in our world, which it matters to us, right now we're dealing with a preponderance of NPCs, non player characters, that are out there making rules, enforcing orders, and doing things. And they're enforced by this AI, which, yeah, everybody's happy. They're playing with ChatGPT. I'm guessing AI is probably 50 years old, if not older. And they've been doing this for so long that we've essentially got many lives in many places. And the game is be the best you can do in the life you're in right now. Because if you've died and come back, you got some role here that you are specifically here to play that role. Otherwise, they would have let you go.
Whoever they are, who's they?
That's a really good question. It
Well, yeah.
depends. You believe there's intelligence outside of the Earth?
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, first, let me just make a really simplistic statement here. Okay, really simplistic. Here we are on planet Earth. Okay, this is a small planet. I mean, I will call it a garden planet. Really fertile planet. All right, we have denizens in our ocean, dolphins and whales that are way more intelligent than we are. All right, but we are the most quote unquote intelligent species on Earth, and because we build things, we build things. Okay, right? You don't think so, Lenny?
The question I asked included all that intelligence as part of the planet Earth. I didn't segregate it out.
Let me just continue. All right.
Okay.
So, all right. The dolphins and the whales, just the dolphins, okay, they're smaller, okay? Their brains are twice as big as ours. Twice as big, okay? If we think we're so fucking intelligent, well, you'd think we would be doing better. Here we are. If you don't think that the star people aren't keeping an eye on us right now because we have nuclear weapons and we have rockets. If you don't think the star people are keeping an eye on us, then you're being a fucking idiot. They're keeping an eye on us because, they're not going to let us get out of the box.
And how many different sets of star people might there be with different forms of governance?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, when you think about it, there's hundreds of billions of galaxies. Never mind stars. Hundreds of billions of galaxies and hundreds of billions of stars, all of whom have who could be producing, sentient life. Hundreds of billions. If we think we're the only ones, all these people think that there's so many people that think that like the cosmos was just created 6,000 years ago. If they believe the Bible. What the fuck, man? 6,000 years ago? What are you kidding me? Right? I've read the Bible. I've read the Bible cover to cover. I've read the Quran. I've read the Upanishads. I've read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I've read all the work of Lao Tzu and Chuang Tzu. I've read all that. I've read all that. All right,
And
and
you're not satisfied.
What's that?
You're not satisfied with the explanations provided for the wisdom that most of the world is based upon.
It's
Religion.
not based on wisdom. It's based on bullshit. It's not
Respect
based on
was
wisdom.
granted.
It's not based on wisdom, Lenny. It's based on
I
bullshit.
didn't say it was.
Okay, all right. Hey. Don't mind me. I'm liable to
You're ranting, right?
Get off a little.
And you're complaining about something that can't be fixed, and we don't want to fix. So we really don't care about the complaint. We want to make a system that doesn't have to deal with it. And we can't do that theoretically as a live action role play LARP if we're worried about what's wrong with the existing system. On the other hand, we can't ever get there from here as long as the existing system is in place. But there's about 50% of the people in the existing system running around thinking that the existing system isn't going to be existing, and it's only a frame of reference as to what that time frame is. But gee, I don't know. I really don't. But it's one of those things where I no longer really care about it, and I don't pay attention to the characters who are actors in that world unless I'm introduced through some way. And to tell you the truth, my world through the lens of Grim Grizz's world has been extremely entertaining for the parts that I was included in. But I've gotten to the point where it requires more intention or attention than I have time to give it to participate properly to get the benefits of the game. And so I'm going to strike out on a whole different game that is a different LARP, but I am first going to take the time to organize my thoughts because it has to be totally outside the box. It has to be educational. It has to be entertaining, and it's got to be real to the individuals involved in doing it. Harris.
Doc, I have something to share because I have an active quest, let's say, to try to perform research and understand and keep my eyes open of what is going on in YouTube land. And there is one particular branding that I made for in response to Grim. It has to do with a term called astroturfing. Do you remember that one? Okay. So I took that clip from a YouTuber, from that guy. He has a quite popular channel, close to 200K subs. But it's one of the channels that I really like. It has to do with etymology and explaining words. He's a good fellow. His channel is Where English. So very recently, like 2-3 days ago, I was participating in one of his live streams. I wasn't aware he was making live streams. So it was the first one. And I realized what he's doing. He's having a game with the hive mind, with his hive mind, that they are very active, let's say. And the game has to do with the main theme of his channel, that is language and words and all of that. So I took a note of one of the examples, and just to report to you and to Bruce. And he had some simple PowerPoint slides there, and he said, "This is the theme. I can't remember how many times we have moved house. By using the word track try to miss them blank, and he gives a sentence like I blank, how many times we have moved house. So he's asking the hive mind to participate and give their opinions of how that sentence can be completed. And of course, in that case, I have lost track of how many times we have moved the house. But it was very highly engaging, and it resulted in many people, even donating and gifting something. So it was very interactive, and I felt that maybe that's one of the uh, games we might consider. So that's
Okay.
my report.
I think that gaming is a good way of modeling systems, and that the Monte Carlo method of statistical analysis requires that your games have a number of iterations before they become significant. But in the Fibonacci speak, if you can get up to 34 different iterations of a game or a format or something, you pretty much lock in on the entire realm of statistical significance in what you're measuring within the game. And the game's got to have purpose and goal. And what I'd be using games for is to find out who's thinking outside the box and reward that sort of thinking with the opportunity to talk with individuals like us and run your outside the box idea by us and see what we think. Sort of like the format of an entertainment game show, but without trying to advertise for products and push it into a groupthink. But I really think that there's people who know what's going on who are going to change our models of belief. And I'm pretty sure that the level of our consciousness comes from water and not the biology. And if you think about the implication of water having the intelligence center instead of the biology having it, and the brain size is a capacity of computation ability, but only dependent on the mechanism and health of the water that goes into it. I think I'd love to talk with some of the scientists in all fields about what water really is and what it isn't, because I think it's a little bit more important than just the carbon skeletons that are large bags of water.
There's no question that water is the essence of life.
Yeah.
And we are so incredibly fortunate to be living here now on a planet, this tiny little planet, which, as I have said earlier, is an electron revolving around a proton, which would be we could refer to as a as a yeah, amazing. It's amazing. Water exists in three different physiological forms in this particular place in the universe, because we are just far enough away from our little yellow star and just close enough that we can have liquid water, and then because our planet is on a is on a don't mind me, I'm I mean, like, really serious stuff. Okay, this is serious stuff. Our planet is on is is on an axis that is tilted. Okay, so as it goes around the sun, it's tilted. It's tilted, and that causes the seasons. And we have seasons here. We have seasons. It's amazing. It's just absolutely fucking amazing that we have seasons here. And the southern hemisphere is different from the northern hemisphere because the southern hemisphere is tilted farther away from the sun all the time as it's going around the earth. Okay? The northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun. So there's times when the northern hemisphere is way warmer. And those of us who grew up in the northern hemisphere know about this. Southern hemisphere, I'm talking about real relativity here now. I'm not talking about bullshit.
Wait a minute. Are we going back to Einstein's relativity and time and space?
I'm not even talking about Einstein. There's certain elements of Einstein that I agree with, certain elements. But, I'm talking about something that's way more elemental than what Einstein talked about.
Oh, good, because Einstein didn't know what he was talking about.
I'm not saying Einstein didn't know what he was talking about. I'm just saying that we could know more about what we're talking about. Hey, what does water have to do with cancer? Well, it depends on the water you're drinking. That's what it depends on. If you're drinking good water, which comes from deep in the earth, that's different. If you're drinking some fucking bottled water from somewhere that's sold commercially, then you got to be careful. You don't think Einstein didn't know? I think Einstein knew a lot more than what he is credited with. I think so. But anyway, whatever.
Bruce, what you say, it reminded me of not so of cancer, but something else. It's called gallstones, that they are obstructing the pancreatic duct. And actually, I know quite a few things about that.
What? Say that again. What kind of stones?
Gallstones.
Gallstones.
That they get into the pancreas.
All right.
And the reason they get there and it can be very harmful, let's say, is because of the bad quality of the water. So a lot of people, they used to drink tap water, and they actually develop these stones inside of them. So it's the same type of stones you find in let's say in the tap, in the faucet. So
yeah. Well, if you drink tap water, you're really not doing yourself any good. Yeah. Tap water is just really, really toxic, as a general rule. Way more toxic than water that you can get from a deep well. The only water I drink, my water, comes from a deep well, and that's the only water I drink. I don't drink tap water. I wish that I wasn't even washing my dishes with tap water. Never mind taking a shower. Jesus. Don't mind me. I got an opinion about it, and it's based upon reality. That's based upon reality, and that is something that is. I suspect you understand, Lenny. I expect you understand you're a fucking chemist.
Yeah, and in reference to what we're talking about in the chat that's got me distracted, I'll do another live stream on water at a different time.
Yeah,
In
okay.
fact, we are hour 15 almost into this.
Cool.
So figure 15 more minutes and then I'll want to wrap it up.
Well, I'm just really delighted to have been able to be part of this for, what is it, an hour and 15 minutes? Thank you very much. Love you, Lenny, and love you, Harris. I'm telling you, you guys are really good, really good. You're just not just good, you're just really good.
You too, Bruce and Doc.
Thank you very much, Harris. I mean, here we are. We're living in this this paradigm that is really essentially very toxic. It's very toxic. And we can go as deep as we want, but what the fuck? There's child trafficking going on, and they're torturing children to harvest their adrenochrome. How much more fucking evil and toxic can that be? That's just so evil and toxic that I can't even comprehend it.
Well, don't bring it here. We're not into evil and toxic.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. You're right. You're right. But I brought it up only because that is going on. What's going on?
Do you have a mechanism to stop it?
I wish to Christ I did. I wish I had supernatural powers. Because there's a bunch of people that I would exterminate. I would exterminate them. Fuck yeah, I would exterminate them. I can't even say it enough. They're that evil, and they're that toxic, and that is who they are. And they essentially rule the world. They rule the world. And that's what we're up against. Those of us, like the three of us, those of us who really, really want to have a decent situation on planet Earth. I never want to incarnate here again. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. I never want to incarnate here again, ever, as a human being.
Probably why you're still here.
Well, I'm here because I'm a long-lived.
No. I'm talking about here in the NPC sense. Everybody who's here is here, obviously, because they're here. But you're not an NPC, which is one of the reasons you're here. And it's funny, but our conversations can be interpreted differently because we've got a lot of viewers, and I try and respond to the viewers in the conversation because it's good practice.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where I'm learning how to have conversations with groups of people that I'm going to introduce to other groups of people to make bigger groups from the ground up, working it out through a Fibonacci scaling system that I'm calling group theory. What I'm not thinking about is how to integrate it with something that might work within this system, because I'm not going to try. It's way too much stress to take anything from the present system, and I want to question everything, but that includes the chemistry that I'm basing my understanding on, which I can't question from within, but I can have other people who have an understanding get to a depth of questioning me to a point where we might come up with some new stuff. But we have to have that conversation with people who know what they're talking about and have to agree on the models that we're using to start. And my model is a little bit more comprehensive than anyone I've found who wants to go on.
Well, your model is comprehensive, Lenny, because you are based in real science. You're based in real science. And that's what sets you apart from the average rank and file. And I dare say that I am also set apart from the rank and file, and I think Harris probably is too. And that's why we are on this show right now. That's why we are speaking up. Right?
Yeah.
Harris?
By the way, Doc, one of the very first things I did when I finished university, I developed a model for basically it was a software, but it had to do with a lot of theory, let's say. So it was the construction of a model for effective teams. So the idea was like I made a software and I gave it to the project manager. Imagine in software engineering or programming teams, but it could actually be applied to any sort or domain. So I have some experience in that regard, and I just wanted to go through it a bit now quickly. It had basically 11 main concepts, and allow me just to enlist them in order to facilitate a bit the conversation on this topic a bit further. The first one has to do with clear goals and understanding. The second one had to do with technical skills. The third was mutual trust. The fourth one had to do with conflicts that had to do with the personality of each of the members. And I can explain this. I had three concepts that had to do with conflicts. Conflicts for personalities, conflicts that have to do with the nature of the tasks, and conflicts that has to do with the process that is unfolding. And the other concepts had to do with external support and leadership, the effectiveness of the team or the group, good communication, negotiation skills, and interpersonal skills. So that was the 11 main concepts of the model, and they were all interlocked together, basically. And you are trying to find the best match for a given task. So if the project manager wanted to solve a particular task, the software will go through all of the personnel or the roster and try to propose, let's say, the optimal team that will finish that task in time and within budget and all of that. So and the final thing, the reason that I had included conflicts is because small amounts of conflicts are beneficial. Like especially if they had to do with the task, let's say. So if it's a creative task and not a routine task, then of course we need to have a little bit of conflict, and because it facilitates innovation and creativity and finding solutions. So that's my 2 cents from what I know.
I agree with you that conflict is not ultimately evil and to be avoided.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of the conflict is resolution of language and linguistics, in that people use words to mean something specific, don't pick up what's actually being said, and the listening skills that we used to have just aren't there because people don't have the attention span to go that deep for that long.
Yeah.
Well, I think that brings us to a legitimate stop point, and I am very, very, very glad to have you gentlemen as guests and to have the running stream of chat that we could participate with. The technology is coming together well enough that we're going to be able to design many ways of communicating and evolving learning systems that reach broadly through the populace, unless of course the net goes down, in which case we got to do it locally. And so it's a combination of what you see here. If you like what you see, try it, and let's really get things done by not allowing ourselves to slip back in their world that they have created for us. Be well, everybody, and
Lots of
enjoy the football game today.
that.